What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. Hope everybody's having a great day. I'm super excited because today I'm filming a video about Fashion Week and what goes into it and all the behind the scenes and just my experience with it, and I can't wait to share that with you guys. And even though it's called Fashion Week, it's actually not just 1 week. It ends up being about 6 weeks in total, so there's a lot to unpack. If you guys are new here and don't know anything about me, I signed with IMG when I was 12 years old. But after I signed with them, I didn't really do that much work until I turned 17. That's when my agency decided to launch me at Paris Couture Fashion Week. This was the summer of 2018, and since I was 17 years old, I needed a chaperone to go with me to Fashion Week. And I was lucky enough to have my mom as my chaperone, but some models, if their parents can't go with them, an agent from their agency will go around and be their chaperone for them. So my mom and I spent 12 days in Paris. It was basically 1 week of castings and 1 week of shows. The first thing you do when you land in a new city to model, you go to your agency. We met my new team, we took some walking videos, some digitals, and we got my cards. If you don't know what a model card is, it's a card that you give to the clients as you walk in the door for a casting. It has all my measurements on it. It has a couple pictures, my height, my Instagram, stuff like that. During that first week, we went to 19 castings and callbacks, and it was crazy. And this thing right here was literally our best friend. We would map out where all the castings were and which order we would go to them. Some of them have overlapping times when you're supposed to be there, and it's pretty hard to schedule and fit all of them into one day. I ended up only booking one show. That was because I was getting so much feedback that I was too shy. A lot of people don't think that personality matters in modeling, but it is a deal breaker. Since I was so young, I really hadn't come out of my shell yet, and I was super shy, and that was really my downfall at Couture Fashion Week. Casting directors definitely look for a lot of personality and confidence, and I just wasn't there yet. I also got feedback that I was a little bit too tan because this was during the summer and I tan really easily, which I've had to be really careful about since then because I lost a few shows because I looked too tan. But I ended up booking Valentino, and it actually was a good thing that I didn't have too many other shows to get to. That meant I had a lot of time to work for Valentino before their show. A few days leading up to the show, they will have hair and makeup tests, and I worked with Pat McGrath. They tested all the makeup and hair looks on me and came up with the final decision. I also got to do press shows for them. So press shows are basically private viewings of a few of the pieces that will be in the show. It's for like fashion reporters and also really rich people that just get a preview of the show before the show. So I ended up doing about 2 days of those. Then it was time for the actual show. So the night before the show, we have a rehearsal. The show was in this beautiful house. We were supposed to walk a little bit through the house and then through the garden where they had just laid fresh sod. As we were doing the first walkthrough, all of the models' heels sunk in the sod, and the crew had to stay overnight and clean all the shoes and rearrange the entire set because obviously that wasn't going to work. So when the models came back in the morning, we had to learn a whole new walk. We ended up having to like zigzag and cross each other through all these rooms in this house, and it was super complicated, and everybody was kind of freaking out because we had to learn it last minute. We then went into hair and makeup, and we probably spent 2 or 3 hours there before the show. It's super fun, and we just kind of get to hang out with the other models, talk to the makeup and hairstylist. My mom was there, so I got to hang out with my mom, and we were kind of just in awe of the whole thing because it was so amazing, and we couldn't believe that we were there, and it was just such a cool experience. So after all the hair and makeup is done and everybody's ready, we went up 2 levels to like the second floor of the house, and everybody started getting dressed. And so all the models have 2 or 3 people helping us get dressed. Then we line up for the show. I was so nervous because this was my first designer show, but the team was super comforting and super reassuring, and the show was amazing. It's such an adrenaline rush when you get out there, and it's just the best feeling in the world. Like, I can't even describe it. Once it was over, I realized that I had forgotten my shirt and hair and makeup. So I was sitting there in my jeans and a bra, and I didn't have my shirt. I texted my mom and I was like, "Mom, I need you to bring me my shirt," because she was still downstairs in hair and makeup. So my mom had to get escorted upstairs past all the celebrities at the show, like all the guests, and come find me and bring me my shirt. Rookie mistake, always bring your clothes with you when you change locations because you never know if you're going to go back to where you came from. So that was an awesome first experience of Fashion Week, and I went home and started my senior year. I was actually only in school for about 3 days before I had to leave for regular Fashion Week. This was my card for New York Fashion Week. I really like this one. I think it's super cool. This time it was a little bit more stressful because I had schoolwork to keep up with and my mom had her work to keep up with, and balancing our schoolwork, regular work with running to castings, running to shows, running all over the city every day. It was pretty exhausting. So the order of Fashion Week goes New York, London, Milan, Paris. My mom and I spent the first 2 weeks in New York where we stayed in an Airbnb, and once again it was 1 week of castings, 1 week of shows. I ended up going to 22 castings and callbacks. I was a little bit more confident because I kind of had Paris Couture Week as a warm-up, but I definitely wouldn't say that I was out of my shell. I was still super shy, and that definitely worked against me. My first show was for a Deem, and that was super fun, but I ended up getting a horrible blister when we were doing our warm-up walk before the actual show. My mom shoved some cotton balls in my shoes and I had to walk like I wasn't about to cry. But yeah, the show went off without any problems and it was super fun. And I actually try to keep a little memento from every show that I do, and so from a Deem, I kept this fake fingernail that I was wearing. Then the next show that I had was Philip Lim, and that was super cool because it was on the roof of a high school in New York. It was such a beautiful show and it was so much fun, and I got to wear a really cool look. Unfortunately, I was not able to snag anything from that show to take home. My final show in New York was the Rodarte show, and that was insane. That is definitely one of my favorite shows I've ever done. But before the actual show, I also did a hair and makeup test for them and some fitting type things, which were super fun, and I also got to know that team really well by doing all that stuff for them. But the actual day of the show, it was raining, and they were kind of freaking out about it because we were walking through a cemetery and we had to walk on these little metal plates around the cemetery, which got slippery when it started raining. So everyone was kind of worried that one of the models would fall. I was definitely worried about that, but surprisingly, nobody fell. And that show was crazy for me because that was the first time I'd really gotten to experience actual paparazzi, and that was crazy. After that show, we weren't really sure if I was going to go to London and Milan because most of those shows at that point were 18 and older. So my agent texted me at 10 p.m. that I wasn't going to go to London and Milan and I was just going to skip to Paris. So we bought train tickets that night for 3 a.m. the next morning. I got a nice 4 days of rest before we left for Paris. But once again, we were there for 2 weeks, 1 week of castings, 1 week of shows, and I ended up going to 39 castings and callbacks. The first show I booked there was Olivier Tayskins. I did hair and makeup for them, which is always so much fun because you always get to know the team so much better. So I did their show, which was gorgeous. I was wearing this super cool dress. And that show went perfectly and it was super fun. After that show, I booked Valentino again, which was so exciting. And it's such an honor to be rebooked for someone you've already walked for, especially when it's someone like Valentino. And I also got to do hair and makeup for them again and press shows and private shows for them again. And then it was time for the actual show. And this makeup look was so cool. I ended up getting crystals put on my lips on top of my lipstick. And I actually kept them. They are Swarovski crystals. Don't know if I'm saying that right. They're literally still stuck in the lipstick. There's so many of them and they're so cool looking. And I could probably sell these for a decent amount of money, I don't know. And that show was amazing. I was wearing a beautiful dress and a super cool hat and it was just so gorgeous. after that show, I ended up getting my first interview with the press, which was very, very scary. And keep in mind that while all this was going on and I was running to castings and shows and fittings and callbacks, I was having to keep up with my schoolwork that I was missing the first 6 weeks of senior year. But Fashion Week is an insane opportunity, and I'm so glad that I went. I actually came home and went straight to a volleyball game to support my team, and basically just went right back into normal life. I haven't done a Fashion Week since then, but I'm really hoping that I get to do one again soon, because Fashion Week is just an experience like no other, and I think it is so much fun, and I can't wait to do it again. Hopefully this gave you some insight into what happens at Fashion Week and how crazy and cool it is, but I think that's all I have for this video, and I hope you guys have a great day. I love you all so much, and I'll see you next time.